Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and forgive me folks, I am very tired. I've had a chaotic last week, nonstop videos and work, few hours of sleep at night, but alas, I am here, I am ready to go, and today we are going to introduce someone who I'm very much a fan of, Chris Rice Crypto on YouTube. He reached out to me a while back ago and was telling me, he was interested. I reached out to people to, maybe become a contributor at World Alternative Media. And I heard from him. I checked out his work, and it's very impressive stuff. And, the thing is, we've got so many people in independent media, the crypto space, elsewhere, producing really good content, but not reaching the viewership that they should, not reaching the audience that they should. They have a voice that should be heard. And so I'm very happy to be joined today by Chris Rice Crypto, who I am introducing right now as a contributor at World Alternative Media. I'm very much looking forward to his work. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, man. And first of all, I want to say that I'm really honored to be a part of World Alternative Media. I've been following a lot of the independent news organizations on YouTube, and I'm really impressed with what you guys do. So to be asked to join World Alternative Media is definitely humbling, and I appreciate the opportunity. And it's kind of crazy after talking to you, being a newer YouTuber myself, I started getting an idea of why I was having roadblocks. And to kind of give the viewers more insight on that, I've been doing what I think is a really good job at marketing and promoting my channel. And I've been basically improving as I go. It was kind of a learning process. And I've been interviewing a lot of pretty controversial people, people like Adam Kokesh. And things like that, I guess, have put me in a position where I'm being shadow banned and being censored. And to be able to have an opportunity to be able to give my voice through the platform World Alternative Media, I think is an awesome opportunity that I'm definitely going to take advantage of. And I appreciate you giving that to me, man.
Absolutely. Well, there's no doubt about it. When you look at YouTube, it used to be quite easy for someone to start a channel, and if they had good content, rise in subscriptions and viewership. But the problem today is that you start a channel, there's a threshold at about 1,000 subscribers before you can monetize. There's a threshold of, I think, 10,000 hours in a certain amount of time, which is difficult for people just starting out to get to immediately. So that holds a lot of people back. But then at the same time, there's these algorithm tricks that are kind of pushing people aside that are producing good content, and in reality are actually being seen by a lot more people than it appears. But of course, you don't see that in their viewership. So Chris, I wanted to talk a bit about, we're going to get into cryptocurrencies and the crypto markets right away, but I wanted to ask you about what kind of brought you to start putting your work forward and trying to be a public voice.
Okay, well, it kind of all comes together with cryptocurrency and everything. Like, I've always had an anarchist, voluntarist view at life. I've never really put a label onto it. And I always saw this corruption and greed and things about the world that needed to change. But I didn't really feel like as an individual I had a voice. And so I just was living my life. I would research and just try to educate myself as to what was going on and try to talk to my friends, but really didn't think I could have an impact. And when I started getting involved in cryptocurrency, it was because I was doing some research for a school project, and I learned about blockchain, learned more about Bitcoin, and then other cryptocurrencies. It led me down a rabbit hole, or many different rabbit holes, I should say. And amongst the rabbit holes, I met many other people who were like-minded, who were anarchists, voluntarists, libertarians, freedom fighters, people who were constitutionalists. And I started seeing that I could be a part of a community where my voice could be effectively heard, where I can make a difference. Whereas I felt alone, now I feel as I'm a part of a community, which really kind of gave me the encouragement to go ahead and start a YouTube channel, a Steemit account using DTube, BitTube, anything I can to try to give my voice a platform so that I can talk to people about not only cryptocurrency, but I talk about anarchy, voluntarism, and something called practice change. That's really important to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the practice change kind of motto because of obviously one of the biggest parts of going out there and raising your own voice is to be the change you wish to see in the world and spread change in any way that you personally can, instead of course, sitting back and waiting for politicians to do it. Obama change mantra and, the Trudeau real change mantra and, change we can believe in and all these different mottos that you hear from politicians running in all countries around the world. And yet, what are people doing? They're sitting apathetic, waiting for a politician to change things for them. And they will, not to your liking, of course, but they
Right.
will. But individuals need to take that action upon themselves. And that's one of the great things that I find about the cryptocurrency markets, because it's no doubt changed a lot of people's lives. This community is getting so much bigger all the time. Recently, I was out in Las Vegas. I missed you by like an hour or two out in
Yeah.
Vegas, because as I was leaving, you're showing up. Of course, you're out of North Carolina, I believe.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it was just interesting how these communities kind of come together and overlap, and you meet so many incredible people in this movement. So it's always great going to meetups throughout the world, throughout North America. It's a beautiful thing. But I wanted to ask you a bit about how crypto has most changed your life, not just from the perspective of the community, but how cryptocurrency itself has changed your life.
Well, the most important aspect of cryptocurrency has done for me is giving me an opportunity to be my own bank, to be able to control my finances, to not have to take my savings and put it in US dollars where I'm basically not encouraged to save because over a period of time, the inflation is going to take effect. And I would have been able to buy more at the time that I started to save than at the point that I decided to buy something. So giving me control over finances is something that was very important to me. And also getting away from the US dollar and away from the United States federal government systems that I basically abhor.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that was really, really attractive to me, because I'm also a student, I go to school for business administration, is the creative destruction that not only cryptocurrency, but blockchain technology is going to bring to the world. And what I mean by creative destruction is just replacing outdated technologies or outdated systems. And to give an example of that, when CDs came out, they started to make cassette tapes to be obsolete. And then once MP3 started becoming more relevant, CDs started becoming less relevant. So cryptocurrencies, I think, are going to be taking the relevancy out of fiat money, taking the control away from the banking system, from the governmental systems, and putting it in a decentralized format that's for the people and controlled by the people. A free market for the money.
And it's incredible how many alternatives come out of the decentralized blockchain world. When you look at everything from more decentralized internets to smart media tokens that need to have advertisers, kind of goes away after a while. People aren't as beholden on advertisers when it comes to media. You've got social media platforms. You've got, in the case of EOS, this idea for guaranteed basic income without extortion. So they're not stealing people's money, taxpayers' money, and flooding it into a welfare state. Instead, you've got a system that is completely voluntary and kind of donates to individuals. They're developing that right now. Obviously, it can't happen soon enough for me when it comes to EOS. We've been waiting for a while. But all the same, there's so many things coming out, decentralized exchanges, because, of course, a big problem in the crypto space is these centralized exchanges online, these online exchanges where a lot of people have lost a lot of money over time, and it's just simply not that safe.
It's
So,
manipulating, the security is not good. There's manipulation in the exchanges,
mhm.
and then there's no actual regulation. And me being an anarchist talking about regulation, but at the same time, we live in the real world, so regulation is going to come into play. But at this moment, it's the wild, wild west, and so it's unfortunate that people don't educate themselves, and that's one of the most important parts about me being involved in cryptocurrency and doing my YouTube channel, is so that I can help educate the general public, the everyday person, not only the basics of Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain, but also security, because security is extremely important. and education is key. So people
Mhm.
need to do the research with stuff like this.
Yeah, and of course, I would have to say that a few of the exchanges out there are likely working with the government, the IRS, etc. I think that's become pretty clear. But
Especially something like Poloniex,
mhm.
because Poloniex was acquired by Circle, and Circle is J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs backed company.
Yeah,
So that's direct to the old system, and you're seeing a lot more of that happening. You're going to see, you're seeing New York Stock Exchange through the International Exchange, ICE.
hmm
They're going to be launching basically a platform for global assets. You're seeing NASDAQ get into the market. They're partnering with Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, and they're trying to do other things within the market. NASDAQ is also one of the investors in Coinbase. They're part of the digital currency group.
hmm
Even the Lightning Network, one of the main funders of the Lightning Network is MasterCard, and they're trying to get patents that are basically going to allow them to have more access to this new financial system that's going to be taking place by
yeah.
having like credit cards through the Lightning Network.
Yeah, Lightning Network is way more centralized than I would appreciate. And then looking at the digital currency group, you got people from the board of directors at the Federal Reserve and stuff. It's been something, when they came out with Segwit 2X, I remember being very much adamantly against them because a lot of people will say, well, it's about the product, not the people involved in the product. And I'm like, I disagree. As a free market, as an individual demand, I decide not to give money or support something that is propped up by people I do not trust or want involved in a certain project. And
I agree.
Poloniex totally robbed me about a year ago. And I remember people saying, yeah, Poloniex is great. It's the best place to go. And I'm just thinking, yeah, I put some steam in there. And within a few days, they froze my funds and won't let me get it out. And now they tell me I need to give them my government ID in order to even touch the account. And if I did, I wouldn't even be able to touch my Steam. So, I mean, Poloniex, it's just blind robbery. But
You're not the first person to have that
no.
happen to it, especially with Poloniex. So you're going to see a lot more of these decentralized exchanges taking place. Binance, they're the largest cryptocurrency exchange by volume, and they're working on a decentralized exchange. They're also working on a decentralized bank. They even moved to the island of Malta, which has been nicknamed Blockchain Island, and that's a place that's basically being accepting of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency companies. And so they're moving there because of what they see as coming regulatory issues.
Yeah, and something I want to kind of bring into this conversation is that while we're talking about a lot of government manipulation and banker manipulation of the cryptocurrency market, it's expected. We've seen that with gold and silver going back to the 1930s, especially under FDR, confiscates the gold and then funds the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which manipulates gold and silver. We see that with Deutsche Bank manipulating gold and silver among countless other banks. And
JP Morgan and silver, yeah. I mean, it's where
absolutely.
I'm going.
And like that's one of the big issues here is that there are these manipulators, and people have to realize that it would be crazy for them to not get into this market because they know their whole derivative structure, the financial system, the markets are all going to come down eventually. Their derivatives are bubbled to the max multi-quadrillion dollar level worldwide. And they'd be crazy not to back themselves up with gold, silver, and crypto. But with that said, I think it's important to mention that it's kind of like pushing a beach ball underwater and it gains pressure. And eventually, when the banking system goes down, everything that's been manipulated will bounce up most likely if it has fundamental value. But I wanted to ask you about the current cryptocurrency markets, Chris. We've been dealing with some tough times since December and January, especially. I would have to say, a lot of us have been kind of just watching everything kind of dwindle down. What do you think about the current cryptocurrency markets?
What I will say is there is a lot of manipulation going on right now. I mean, if you look at the news that's been coming out all this year, the news has been nothing but great. I mean, there's all this positive stuff going on within the cryptocurrency space, but it does not reflect in the markets. And right now, it's just kind of a battle between the bear market and the bull market, and seeing which side is going to win. And it's a very pivotal time right now because we're getting to a point where if the price starts to drop down any lower and this level of support doesn't stay, then you're going to see it at a point where the miners are not going to be able to sell at a certain rate, or they're going to be selling at a loss. And that's going to cause a problem. So what you see and kind of going on right now, I think, is, just in my opinion, is the old financial systems trying to find a way to keep themselves relevant because they can see the change that's coming. Now, I do support decentralization, but you can't have everything be decentralized. It just can't work that way. And if somebody has a private business and they want to run a centralized blockchain, I mean, that's up to them,
Yeah, that's their
having
right.
that freedom of choice.
Sure.
So I'm not going to downplay, all centralization. Not all centralization is bad, but most centralization is bad, especially if it's these old financial systems, these old banking institutions that are trying to stay relevant in the new coming systems by getting these patents, by trying to buy up exchanges like Poloniex. Because Poloniex used to be a really good exchange. I used Poloniex when I first started getting into cryptocurrency trading. And I would say about last summertime is when they were still kind of doing it right. It was about fall that they started changing some of their policies. And then once Circle bought them, then they changed their KYC, their identification process. And not only you, but many people got really screwed out of that because they just didn't want to provide that information. And then you've got exchanges like Binance and KuCoin that you really don't have to provide KYC as long as you don't want to withdraw more than 2 Bitcoin a day. And right now, 2 Bitcoin would be equivalent to about 13,000 US dollars roughly. So if you can't live off $13,000 without providing KYC, then maybe you've got a problem. Mm-hmm. But there are opportunities for us to get around these systems.
Yeah, I think the people that have been heavily involved in the gold and silver markets for the last 20 years can relate to a lot of what we're going through, except for the issue is we got this new technology. It's in its infancy, and we have, like you mentioned, so much good news coming out, but at the same time, it's held down, and we see this Bart Simpson effect, the hair up and down, up and down. And just the other day, I was watching the charts. It went from 6,300 US dollars to Bitcoin, that is, to 6,850, I believe.
Yeah.
And it just went flat, and then it went exactly down to where it climbed from, and it's just totally unnatural. It's
and speaking of that, I had found out from somebody just last night about BitMEX. I mean, I know the exchange, but BitMEX, they had a situation where apparently they were going to be down for maintenance, and some people had some information to make that they were given basically that was illegal. And they took this information and was using it to their advantage. And at that particular time, when that price peaked up, people were shorting. The shorters on BitMEX kind of lost out with that scenario because of inside manipulation, because of some group of traders finding out beforehand that BitMEX is going to be down for maintenance. So it's kind of crazy the stuff that people will do to affect the market. And BitMEX is also another large exchange as well. It's an exchange that if you're a US citizen, you can't use unless you use VPNs. And VPNs are something that's coming very handy if you're in the crypto blockchain space as well.
Yeah, we've been talking a bit about how many issues we're having in the crypto space, and there are a lot of them. And then at the same time, I mean, we have a lot of things to look forward to in this space, a lot of things that are give me a lot of optimism anyway. What makes you most optimistic going forward in the next year or so regarding cryptocurrencies? What gets you most excited?
Seeing use case, seeing these cryptocurrencies being used, seeing mass adoption, seeing applications and platforms that are created that people don't even realize that they're utilizing these cryptocurrency technologies that make it so seamless. I think you're going to see a lot of companies, especially that were doing ICOs last year and coming out last year, that are more speculative, that don't actually have use case for their technology. I think you're going to start seeing those companies having to step up, or they're going to fall to the side. So I think use case is going to be very important in the next year.
Yeah, the thing is, when I was looking at the 2017 markets, I remember thinking, wow, this is so amazing. All of us kind of got caught up at least a little bit in the hype of, wow, this is just going to go to the moon and we're going to be billionaires in no time. And like the problem was the majority of the crypto market was terrible. I mean, we have some really amazing cryptocurrencies out there, but we saw a bubble burst because we saw things like Dentacoin and a lot of really bad cryptocurrencies with no fundamental value going up for absolutely no reason other than speculation. So there's that issue, but we have to remember, looking back a year ago to this day, that Bitcoin was still about only that half the price of what it is today. And I know we saw over 20x returns last year from about January, February to December. And that is something to be very excited about. And I find a lot of people at the same time are going, well, it sucks. We went down. We didn't continue to see a rally. And it's like, well, we got probably the best bull run of any market in recent history. In 7 months, we saw a massive increase. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think a lot of people are just so used to gaining a lot of money or crypto that it's gotten to the point where it's like, well, I want more, I want more. I think we will have to likely be patient when it comes to the market going forward. But I've got a lot of optimism for the next few months. We could see something interesting pop up, especially over maybe another ETF decision. I'm not a fan of ETFs. I don't want ETFs, but buy the rumor or buy the announcement, sell the actual release. It would be something that I would consider looking at the futures last year. But I wanted to ask you, as we're kind of getting close to wrapping it up here, Chris, what kind of videos are you going to be doing for WAM for our audience to check out? What kind of interviews? What's kind of the format of your videos that you'll be providing as a contributor?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out all the logistics out, but I plan on doing some interviews with different companies that I think are going to provide usefulness in the cryptocurrency space. So not only am I going to do interviews, but I'm going to try to also cover stories that are important. I'm not going to try to cover every aspect of the news in cryptocurrency because, as you know, like the space moves super fast. So for me to cover a lot of what goes on, I would be having to do multiple shows daily. But what I'm going to definitely try to do is focus on the important stories that have relevance, that are important, that people need to know about, especially if the media is not reporting it correctly and people need to see other points of view. And then I plan on doing interviews. I plan on trying to do exclusive interviews to get exclusive information so I can get some of these companies to explain what they're offering and also dumb down the information for the general public, because most people, including myself, aren't very technological people, and techie talk kind of throws people off. So I'm going to try to do a lot of explaining of what's useful, interviewing the important people, and trying to cover the important news in the cryptocurrency space. And then I might even try to explore some other avenues, but cryptocurrency, I guess, would be the focal point.
Well, it's very interesting watching your videos, Chris. I've seen a few of your interviews, really good work, and I've also seen you be interviewed on a few different channels as well as I think it was JSNIP4, one of the channels I saw you interviewed on a while back ago. A lot of people know of you, and a lot of people respect the work that you do, and I think it's only deserving that you have an audience that's big enough that you'll actually be able to get your voice out, because that's so important in this space, is trying to influence this and, as you say so often, practice change. That is so incredibly important. So I really appreciate you joining us, and I'm looking forward to your video reports and your interviews and the work that you do coming up here at WAM. And I hope everyone out there make sure to also check out Chris Rice Crypto on YouTube, and make sure to comment and subscribe and support, because this is an incredibly innovative market that's unrolling before us, and it can provide so much for people. But I think the way that we go about it is really important, and having the proper information necessary to make good decisions and not just base everything, as I mentioned earlier, on speculation and euphoria. It's really important. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'm excited to get rolling on all of this.
Right on. Well, thank you again, man. I appreciate it. I look forward to the future.
Like what you see here at WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized by YouTube as they bring in the ADL to flag all of our content, as hate speech. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also check us out at Steemit at Josh Sigurdson, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency, Steem that is. So don't forget to check us out there and find us at Anarchapulco 2019. I know it's early, but this is such an exciting event coming up with Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, David Icke, Larkin Rose, Jeff Berwick, you know, all the usual characters, and it's going to be amazing. So we hope to see you there. Make sure to check the link for Anarchapulco below and use promo code WAM to save as much as 15% on your tickets. We hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.